Hello and welcome to Leave the Feed. I'm your host, James Petrossi. Today is day 15, and I'm here with Nour Khodr, and we're here to talk about boom, the talent show, which actually, surprisingly enough, after you signed up for this episode, I learned you actually had a story about a talent show as a young kid. So before we
Yeah,
get into
yeah,
that, let's hear about your journey as a singer, a creator, a manager, and how all of this has transpired to where you are today.
yeah. Thank you for having me. Day 15, that's awesome. I like that number too. I have certain numbers I like. I like 7, 15, 55, 77. Those are like my favorite numbers. I'm not
Nice.
even kidding. So I actually just remembered that you did say it was day 15. So and it's crazy you bring up the talent show because that is a super fundamental part of my journey. So growing up, very young, my mom put me in piano. She loved to sing. She never pursued it, but she always loved it. I've had photos on Instagram of me, little me with a little like bow tie button down on, doing piano recitals. But I never thought I could sing. It just wasn't something the people I was around, the guys I was around growing up would do. So I just stuck to sports and piano from time to time and a little guitar. It wasn't until I was like 14, 15, entering high school, when I was in my guitar elective, and the guitar teacher was like, if anyone can sing and play, we'll give them extra credit. And I was like, you know what? My dad really wanted me to continue to do really well in school. He's a doctor, so there was that pressure. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give this a go. And I played Hotline Bling by Drake on guitar. Like you used to call me on the cell phone. And the music teacher, the guitar teacher, was also the keys teacher and the like teacher at the school. She pretty much did all the music related stuff at my high school. And she was like, if you're willing to join the vocal ensemble, I will personally like take you under my wing and, you know, hook you up basically, like,
Yeah.
I'd get an A and everything would be great. So I was honestly like, I was obviously not 100% sold at first, because singing was something new and it is a vulnerable activity to sing, especially when you're first starting. But I did it. And what's funny is not too long after this happened was this talent show that came up. My high school had 2,300 people, and this talent show came up, and I was, how you'll go to the watch the auditions, like of people coming to audition, and then as you see in shows and movies, like they'll print the paper on the wall of who made it, who didn't for each play or whatever. So she was doing auditions. I went into the choir room, which was also a guitar room, and I was just sitting as a viewer, just watching her, like the teacher, audition all these people. And then, she was like, "Are you gonna go up? Are you gonna go up?" And I was like, I don't know. And then on her lunch break, she was eating her sandwich, and I went down and I just started playing piano and singing All of Me by John Legend. And basically, like the next day, I never did a formal audition. I just did that. And then the next day, I look at the wall, and my name's on the wall that I made this one
Wow.
show.
Wow.
And I was like, I was like, I never auditioned. She was like, yeah, you did. You did. I was like, on your lunch break? She was like, yeah, that was your audition. I was like, well, so I ended up doing that talent show. That was my first ever legit performance singing, and it was definitely quite the band-aid to rip off because 2,200
It's a
people is
lot
a
of
pretty
people.
large crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad was there too, and some family were there, so obviously even more pressure. But it was cool. In the video, I still have it somewhere. I could send it to you. I was clearly very nervous, but the voice was there. Just needed some work. And over the years, obviously, I was working with her and other vocal coaches that got me where I am today. So yeah, that was the beginning to talent show. Obviously, my journey goes on to. If you want me to keep going, I can,
Yeah,
or I can.
please
We can
keep
end
going.
going.
Yeah.
So also, growing up, everybody always said I was very talkative. I'd go to the clinic with my dad, and they'd be like, "Your son is a talker," which honestly is pretty flattering. Just meant I was a super extrovert. But I so that talent show happens, and I stay in the music group, sophomore, junior, senior year, and I end up going in. The teacher, like, they take the top singers from each high school to sing at Epcot because I was living in Florida. And Orlando, they have Disney, and I got to sing there twice, which is also super cool. And then I decided I wanted to audition for The Voice when I was like 16, 17. And I go to the audition. My dad's with me. We go to Atlanta. It's a classic cattle call, like like I don't know how many thousands of people, but it was crazy. We wait for 4 hours. I audition. When I'm auditioning, my eyes are closed, and I mean, maybe I sounded good, but with those kind of shows, you have to be the full thing because there's so many options. So I didn't get it, and I was like so bummed and honest. And then after that, I went to college freshman year. I was like rushing a fraternity, which I didn't end up like following through with because I was like, this isn't for me. Ironically, when I was doing the fraternity stuff, the first thing we were doing was sorority visits when we would visit sororities and sing to them. So it's like I was trying to get
Oh,
away
wow.
from music because I was disappointed in myself, but somehow like I was brought back to it like within while I was trying to get away from it. And then ironically, right after like that, like 3 months into college, I got a call from The Voice. And they were like, we want you to audition, like come to New York, do this, we'll give you an instant callback. And then I did that, and from there I had obviously that boosted my confidence a lot. I also got offered to audition for American Idol and do the execs for that. And then from there I did both of those things. Obviously I didn't win either of those shows, but I did make some pretty good movement with those shows. And then after that I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make my own songs. I'm gonna see where they go. So I recorded like 6 songs. One of them was called Ace, which did really well on TikTok. That was like the first song of mine to like get really good numbers. And I was able to do so because I watched how TikTok was starting to become the new wave. I saw like, different like Arizona Zervas had a song called Roxanne. That was like the first one that really did well. And so when I saw that, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try and do that. So I reached out to a bunch of different TikTokers and things like that. And at the time, the Hype House was big. So they used my song. And I kind of was like showing other up and coming TikTokers, hey, like, this is the dance. If you want to do it, I'll repost it, yada, yada. And then I somehow managed to get that song going. I had a couple of labels reach out to me and they were like, hey, like, we want to work with you. But as far as being signed as an artist goes, the deals were didn't make sense. But they wanted me on as a marketing guy, so I started marketing for like some Kid Leroy music, some Jason Derulo songs, Tate McRae songs, Kid Leroy, and just like all these artists that were like really getting pushed at the time. And so I got offered to also work on the weekend Super Bowl halftime show marketing campaign on social media. And then I started working with startups. And obviously from there, 2020 October, I moved to LA, and then all these opportunities started coming through. And I was like, wow, there's a lot of business in this. And I was like, I was from college kid who literally only knew college to social media manager guy who had some of the biggest TikTokers signed under him. I never even studied marketing. I never studied any of that. I was pre med for 2 years. Then I was pre law, and I just literally want this. I had a good energy to me, and people gravitated to it. And I just was looking out for everyone, trying to do everything right, and it was like a really cool experience. And then like did that for like 2 years, and then as of 2023, kind of returned to music, and then 2024, obviously more music, still marketing, working with startups. Started my own late night show. I don't know if you saw that, called Late Night LA. It's on this. It's linked in my Instagram bio, but brought like Sal Volcano from Impractical Jokers on there, and just kind of found ways to keep on keeping the network and the community around me kind of like active. And then this year I did my first tour in Europe and then US, multiple cities, like I did more than 14 cities, which was always a dream of mine. So yeah, that's kind of the spark notes of how I got where I am now and where I am now. But obviously if you have any questions on certain things, let me know.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting that like you had this band-aid you called ripped off about like here I am in front of like 2,300 people and I'm singing. And I'm wondering for you, what were these different like milestones or how did you like ebb and flow? You got into music, then you sort of like took a back seat and were like, no, I'm going to be pre-med. How did you release some of the things that weren't helping you progress and lean into like these natural talents that you have? 'Cause I think a lot of people struggle with going after what they're good at. I think because they are really vulnerable when they do it. And I think there's also a lot of like pressure and expectations from either parents or society to do a certain thing. Like, how did you overcome those?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's always the comfortable route in any like situation. You can be comfortable with one thing, but that doesn't mean you're going to be happy, or you can be uncomfortable with this other thing, but if this other thing works out, then you are extremely happy. And in college, I realized I didn't love pre-med. Obviously, like I love like the idea of pre-med. I love the idea of being a doctor, but that's not for me. And my dad went to Harvard. Like he's a doctor. He's an incredible doctor. My younger brother, who's a year younger than me, he also continued on that route. And like I feel like I was passionate about this whole marketing thing, and I was able to find success in it. Obviously, it's like if you don't try, you'll never know. I'm blessed that like my mom always supported me, that my dad always supported my decisions and stuff. Obviously, as a parent, they're always gonna be like, so is this working out? Is this not working out? But
Right.
luckily they gave me the blessing of like, let's see where this goes. And I grinded really hard. And I mean, society always, even when I was singing in high school back then, like if you sang in high school, it wasn't cool as a guy. So
Yeah.
you either play basketball or football or lacrosse, but like even at one point in my high school, the following year I did the talent show, and then the next year there was the talent show. Obviously, it was an every year thing at my high school. This girl that was really cool wanted to sing with me, and I was about to do it with her. And like the guys that were on my sports team were like, "Yo, like you're gonna do that," and it made me feel weird about it, so I didn't do it. And I look back and I'm like, I should have done it. And I think like you don't want to be in that position where you're like, I wish I'd done it, even if like there's a risk in pursuing your talent of being a great musician or an actor or a marketing person, because a lot of people I know really do like love marketing, like it's an actual passion, because it's really cool to see a startup go from here to here. But yeah, I think the most important thing is just to realize that you want to look in 5 years and look back and be like, I actually did something I love. Sure, I took a big risk, and sure, I could have been comfortable and stayed in college, got a degree, and got a 9 to 5, or you're like, oh, I leaned into this talent I have, and I'm still getting to where I want to go. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting close. I also struggled with that. Like, I've gone and done shows that, like, a fan brought me this to one of my shows. I keep it on my desk, but this is from, like, all of these are different shows I did: London, Germany, Austria. I think that was LA. So, those are things I always dreamed of. And it didn't happen overnight. Obviously, 2020 I released Ace, and then it went pretty viral, but COVID happened, so I couldn't tour anything, which was a super bummer. And then obviously the business started thriving, so 2020, and then 2021 I released one song, 2022 no songs, and then 2023 returned to music. And not only music though, because as you know, music is something that can be huge, but you gotta always have your hand in different buckets. Otherwise, you can't just do music. Unless you
Yeah.
have a record label, but most people don't.
And you brought up in the process when you started going on TikTok and you released your first song, you're like, hey, I was just bringing a great energy, looking to collaborate, like get my hands dirty and figuratively, and,
Yeah.
throughout that process though, creating a song, the pandemic, going on tour, reaching levels of fame, people creating little album things for you. I mean, that's epic. That's really cool. Congrats. But like,
Thank you.
with that, there's got to be like some internal turmoil going on because you're on social media and obviously you're trying to create fandom, you're trying to stay true to yourself. How have you created that balance and what challenges have you faced with your own sense of self in that?
It's a lot of pressure, and I think and I've honestly really, really learned to value putting the phone down and just living in the moment. Because I mean, when I grew up, and you grew up too, we didn't have iPhones. We had flip phones. We had phones that literally you had to press the same number multiple times to text. It was a pain to just say yes or no. But I mean, I've obviously, it's never no journey comes without any, trials and obstacles and stuff. And when I first started and the business side of things, and I moved to LA, I had, like 50 people, 50 signed to me and my company, and I was like 20, and I was under so much pressure. I'd literally have breakdowns, just randomly start like breaking down. I was always overthinking. That was my biggest problem. I overthought everything. Oh, is this good enough? Is that good enough? What are we doing here? What are we doing there? Is this person happy? Is that person happy? So I think I lost myself a lot when I was managing, which is why I slowly came back to being music, because that was me caring about my happiness over everyone else's happiness. Because if you're an agent or a manager, your responsibility is your client's happiness, right?
Right.
And I think doing that can really be mentally draining. And like I said, I was living like a double life kind of. I was like loving business, but I also was loving music. And then I slowly started to fade away from the management. I helped the people I was working with find new teams and kind of pass the baton on for them and get them where they needed to go. And then I started focusing back on what I wanted and kind of doing more independent contractor work as a business and not being like exclusive working with creators. I was more non-exclusively working with them. Like when I had something, I'd hit them up, but there wasn't the pressure of like, oh, I need more. And then when the business started growing more, sorry, when the music started to grow more, especially this year, you know, it's super surreal to do it and be like, wow, I've wanted to do like when you accomplish a goal, there's nothing like that feeling. Like to be in Europe in these different states and different countries, different cities and perform, it's like I went from like I said, I went from the talent show in my high school, my freshman year to sold out show in Germany, sold out show in Austria, sold out show in London, and then getting to also go on a tour with people that I used to listen to and open for them here in the US, in two cities in Texas and multiple in California and then Arizona. So it's like, I think the way I stay grounded is I just kind of take a step back and I'm just like, I'm super, super grateful for this. I'm going to enjoy every moment of it, but I'm not going to let it make me lazy. And I think that's the key. And also, like, people more than ever now say like, cringe is the new thing. Like sometimes if you're cringe, it's better because that kind of captivates people. If you're not cringe or if you're not doing things that catch people's attention, then if I just post a video of me singing like this right now, it's kind of like, oh, cool, like great voice, cool dude. But I have a video I'm gonna post probably later today, where one of my buddies named Zach Gordon, he was in the Diary of a Wimpy Kid. He was the main guy, where it's like him, like kind of like shaking me like this, and I'm just singing, and it's just a comedic reel, and it's like just like a funny thing. But yeah, I think it's important to just take a step back, take a deep breath. Definitely, like you were saying, take a break from the social media, from the phone. And even when you do post, like it's not a bad thing to scroll and stay informed on your friends' lives or the news, I think, but it can be so toxic sometimes. And eye fatigue is a real thing. I find myself struggling with eye fatigue so bad. I literally have the glasses somewhere in my room, but the glasses like they basically like are blue light glasses to help with the screen. But even then, it's like I'll be on my laptop or my phone so much that I'll have to take a nap because my eyes are just so tired. And it's just an addiction. It becomes an addiction.
Yeah. No, you mentioned in this, the glory, and you talked about the hard work, as a creator, especially as you've gone more into the music space and continued to follow that path of the things that light you up inside. How much like ongoing improvements do you have to make, whether it's like voice coaching, learning new, anything involved in the industry? Like, how do you make sure you're always improving what you're already good at?
I mean, you always got to be happy, but never fully satisfied. Because, like I said, like when you get lazy, that's when you start to fall back and stuff like that. And I remember hearing this when I first started. A very, something that stuck with me is my buddy said, "When you abandon your fan base abandons you." And that's basically goes to say, if you just don't post and you don't show people what you're doing, then they feel like you're leaving them out because that's how they connect to you. Yeah. So the other way I do that is I literally will like scroll my Instagram and I think Instagram just hears me talk and it'll show me like 10 ways to captivate this or 10 things to do that. So I'll do that and then I'll always work with new producers and just kind of hear new ideas and try and like come up with new ideas. And a lot of my music I write, if not all of it, is just literally through experience. And I'll just hear new kind of waves or like sounds. Like when I was on tour, I heard a lot of unique instruments that aren't like common here in America,
Mm.
and I'll just try to just try keeping things exciting because I feel like you said, the times are always changing. Like at one point there was no Netflix, Tubi, Peacock, Hulu, Amazon. There was just the TV and you watch Disney Channel or if you're a kid or Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon. The same with the music on the radio. It was like the same songs were being kind of pushed out on the radio or on YouTube. Now it's like there's a million different streamings. There's a million ways to upload music as an artist. So everything is becoming much more competitive and saturated. So it's like literally 10 times harder. It's not 100 times harder to break through if you're not doing that. And I find myself kind of like doing that by like kind of like the TikTok thing in 2020. Like that was the way to go viral, was to use TikTok. Now everybody's caught on to that. So now you have to either find a way within TikTok to be more unique to blow up or to get more views and stuff, or you have to just find a new gold mine, because TikTok in 2020 was the gold mine of blowing up artists. Like multiple artists came out of that era. And so yeah, I think it's just about learning the new current, keeping up with the current, and like just not allowing yourself to just sit back on the wave. You gotta surf. You gotta get
Yeah,
up on the
yeah.
surfboard.
Social media is definitely an asset. It can also be a detriment. Obviously, for those of us that aren't creators in the space, there's a lot of just scrollers. And I think some of those
Yeah.
scrollers are looking at these achievers and thinking like, I want that. I want to be that. And, let's take it off social media into a story you told earlier when, you said you were going to sing with this girl in your school and someone was like, why would you do that? And I think that there's a lot of people that are scrolling that want to go after something, and it might be a person saying, why would you do that? Or it might be a voice in their head saying to themselves, you're not good enough to do that. Like, what would you say to those individuals that need to overcome a barrier, to be vulnerable, to go after what they love and like really dig into their passion like you have?
I'll say a couple of like things that I'm sure people have heard, but I'll say some things from the heart too. But I think you've obviously missed 100% of the shots you don't take. And I think it's better to not live with regret and to take the risk and fail than to say, I wish I tried. In every situation, whether it's like you said, like that example of me not seeing with that girl who was very talented, and it would have been a great core memory for me to have, just like the talent show the year before. But I let doubt, I let peer pressure and like bully kind of like mentality dictate my decision, and I never made that mistake again. Ever since that moment, I literally, if I want to do something and everyone around me saying don't do it, I still will do it if I feel like in my heart it's something that I want to do, and if it's something that leads me in a direction that I want to find myself going in. And it goes down to show like if someone, like for example, nowadays unfollowing on Instagram is such a big thing for some people. It's like, okay, if you post something, if you singing or you doing something that you love and someone unfollows you, then that person just isn't meant to be in your life, because if they can't support something that clearly makes you happy, or a skit that you posted or something that you like, I think that it's just like, you can't live for other people, right? So that's what I would say. I would say you got to be vulnerable. You got to live for yourself, because you are you. At the end of the day, when you look in the mirror, you're looking at yourself. I think it's so easy to give in to chatter and what people say around you. So it's obviously extremely, that's why not many people get to the position that some creatives get to, because those creatives weren't scared to, even Bieber was singing in the street with a guitar. People go and they do vulnerable things, whether it's something that's very out there, like, singing in a public setting, or doing something that wasn't like socially like really common, like dudes singing in 2014, 2015, unless you were Bieber or like Shawn Mendes, it wasn't like, even then, like they were deemed cool by girls, but guys looked at them like, oh, what a
Yeah.
weirdo. It's like, and now it's like, dude singing is like the coolest thing. And if you're a dude that can sing, it's like, oh my god, dude, like what? It's like, so to me, I think, that's an example. It's like if I had done that then, and I could look back now, I'd be like, oh, like Nour was onto something, but I didn't do it because I was listening to everybody around me. So my advice is to just do it. And even though if it feels uncomfortable, then it's probably the right thing to do in that situation of being creative, right? Not in many
Yeah.
situations, but in the situation of you debating between doing something you love or not doing something you love based on people's opinions, 100% of the time you should do it, as long as it feels right. It felt right to me, and we literally rehearsed it at my house and everything, and I just bailed. I was like, multiple people were like, "What? You're gonna do that?" And then I didn't do it. So
Yeah, I've always referred to the creative process as that of a beautiful struggle. It's different for all of us. So, in terms of your journey, where do you see your trajectory going from here? Like, what's next in your goals?
I would say I've never released an album or an EP before. I've released multiple singles. I've been on a pretty good wave recently this year of releasing singles every month, just about. So my goal is to put together an EP album, most likely an album because I have a lot of singles and I have some new stuff for February. and then doing a more dominant tour in like March and May, or maybe May and June. So I think more touring, releasing more music. I'm working on a couple startups myself, a couple app ideas that I have with a couple cool developers and designers. So that entrepreneurial side's still there. Working on a late night show. The late night show I did in 2024. I started January 2024. I did 8 shows that year. So it was somewhere like month after month, some months off. But I'm planning one for the start of 2026. So I'm very excited about that because that allows me to like partner with brands, work with new comedians, new artists, and new people that just want to come to the community and just do something cool. So more late night shows, more business, knock on wood, and more music. That's kind of where I'm headed, and just kind of growing it because I'm in a stage right now where I've been blessed to see success in those all those categories, and the second that I get lazy, it's gonna like I'm gonna move backwards, which is something I obviously don't want. So, and yeah, and my birthday was last month too, so I had a lot of cool. It was really cool to see kind of like the fans that I've met over my, because that was my first time touring over the summer, like to that extent, and to see all those fans wish me happy birthday, make edits, TikTok, Instagram stories, DMs. It really, really felt special. I got pretty emotional seeing it because I was like, wow, like I did something that I've been wanting to do my whole life, and I did it in a way that's super sick. It's like so, and I wouldn't have accomplished that had I stayed in my comfort zone and listened to everybody around me.
Yeah, yeah. I like what you said about if you get lazy and move backwards. And fortunately, right now we're on day 15 of Leave the Feed. So a lot of people have been moving forward, they're halfway through. And this is a time for them to reconnect with their talents, to go after things they believe in, and also make sure they stay disconnected along this journey. Some people might not be taking this challenge and they just want to get healthier social media habits and get inspired by awesome creators and thought leaders. What is your advice for anyone looking to seek more peace with their relationship with social media or those that are taking this challenge?
I think the key word is moderation. I've always used it in everything, relationship and with a person or with social media or with anything. I think everything can be good in moderation. I've personally, like I said, I have been on social media like like very in it for the past 10 years, and like I catch myself like holding my phone, and sometimes I'll be on my phone, I'll look at it, it'll be 10 a.m., the next second it's 3 p.m., and I'm just like scrolling, and should I post this, should I post that, do I do this, do I do that, and watching other people's feeds. And as cool as it can be that we have that opportunity, it is also extremely toxic because you're like, oh, like a lot of viewers will be like, oh, I want that life, and they'll live vicariously through their phones, and it that prevents them from going out and creating their own life. Like it's kind of like when people just watch movies all the time. It's like you're watching stories over stories over stories over stories when you could be making your own story.
I love that. Create your own story, chart your own path. You've been an awesome guest. Thanks, Noir. I really, really
Thank you.
appreciate all of your insights. And for those of you listening, share Leave the Feed with a friend and don't be afraid to disconnect. Don't get lazy and fall backwards on your dreams. Chart your own course. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks again, Noir.
Thank you, James. Thanks for having me.